I'm Jesse Wells. So I'm the program director, and these are our lead instructors. So unfortunately, none of us have any financial disclosures to make. We're not connected with any of the products here. We don't specifically endorse products. The stuff we're talking about is the stuff we think is the best tools that are out there to manage the difficult airway. We have an incredible amount of experience in this room. There's probably 200 plus years of airway experience in this room now. We have faculty from Stanford, UCLA, we've got a pediatric emergency medicine fellow. We have people in all stages of their careers. What are we all doing here? Why did CEP spend tens of thousands of dollars to create our equipment cache, to train instructors? Why did you guys travel from Kansas, Idaho, San Diego, all over California to be here today? And it's because obviously airway is extremely important. And there's three reasons why airway management is going to become more difficult. Mike, what would one of those be?
People are getting fatter.
Correct. The slide's a little bit of a cue here. So this is a patient actually from Highland that I ended up criking. So obesity, the BMI, you look at these graphs that come out every year that show the states and percentage of people that are obese and morbidly obese. This makes airway management more difficult. So Seth, what would be another reason why airway management is going to be more difficult going forward? Aging population. So sometimes old people are very easy to manage their airways, but sometimes they're a surprise scareway because of kyphosis or structures of their head or neck. And the third reason that isn't probably apparent to most of you is there's a substantial number of head and neck cancer survivors out there now, whereas before it was relatively fatal disease, and now you've got these patients out there with completely unique anatomy because of changes from treatment for cancer. So your single coverage, it's 2 in the morning, a midwife runs into emergency department holding this baby that was delivered at home, and they're not breathing. Here, manage the airway. I mean, these are the things that keep us awake at night and make our hair stand up on the back of our neck. And as mentioned by our physician partner from Kansas, in terms of backup, most of you don't have any backup at all. So there's no such thing as ENT in-house as far as I can figure out, even in the towers on the hills. But how many of you have a surgeon in-house 24/7? So maybe a quarter. So really you're at, how many of you are double coverage 24/7? 3, okay. And so most of us are single coverage with no backup, having to manage the airway essentially on our own. So David, who are these three guys and why are they smiling?
They must be attorneys.
They're attorneys, right. And why are they smiling?
Somebody mismanaged an airway.
Yeah, so this is something I pulled off the internet, supposedly an $8.24 million settlement for permanent brain damage purportedly resulting from failure to manage the airway. So part of the genesis for this course is a bad outcome that we had within CEP. And part of the outcome of that course was to create this course. It came through the mutual. And we're actually going to go through this case now. And I want you to read through this first part of the HPI and start shouting out if you see any red flags. Trouble swallowing? Good. What else? Difficulty talking? Yep. What else?
Multiple visits.
Multiple visits, right. This isn't somebody off the street. They've already had steroids and they've already had antibiotics. So this case we're going to talk about now is the greatest settlement CEP has ever made. This is the MedAmerica Mutual's largest payout case in the history of CEP. And so we'll go on to the next page here. And the charting, this case is probably 10 years old, 8 to 10 years old, and the charting is not great. But we don't have to worry, right, because the SATs are 98% on room air, so there's really no issue, right? So appears to be oriented. There's really no description of the habitus, but the patient is obese. So go ahead and keep reading. How many of you drain your own PTAs in the ED? So in this group, almost all of it. It's interesting, the variability. There's some places we go where we do psych courses where nobody raises their hand, which I find a little bit curious. So our CP partner calls the ENT who's at home with his feet up on the couch and says, hey, I think I've got a paratonsillar abscess here. And the ENT says, great, go ahead and drain it. So that's the plan. So it's cut off a little bit, and the far right side, that's 2. So it's 2 milligrams of Versed and 2 milligrams of morphine is what was administered. So those pretty heavy doses. No, that's like almost homeopathic, right? It's like open a wine bottle and wave it under the nose. But in any case, that was enough for the patient to lose their airway reflexes. So CP partner number one tries to get the airway, cannot, and hits the panic alarm, calls everyone, starts trying to bag the patient. They're having difficulty bagging. So CP partner number two comes over. This is a double covered site. CP partner number two attempts to intubate without success. And now they can't keep the SATs up. Anesthesia gets there, and it turns out there's a general surgeon that's in the department consulting on another patient. So somebody runs and grabs the general surgeon and brings them to the bedside. Anesthesia can't get the airway. So the patient has a Brady arrest. The surgeon is able to secure a surgical airway. The patient regains spontaneous circulation, but is a permanent anoxic brain injury with essentially in a vegetative state. So, did the anesthesiologist get sued? Well, everyone gets sued, right? But did the anesthesiologist, do you think there was a payout for the anesthesiologist? No. How about for the surgeon? No. How about for CP partner number two? Nope. This entire case, 100% of the settlement came down on CP partner number one. And so, Letitia, why do you think that is? So what didn't CP partner number one do that's the reason why the settlement came down? But it comes down to a failure to do one specific act. Right. So the failure of CP partner number one, when the SATs could not be maintained, to attempt a surgical airway. If CP partner number one had attempted surgical airway and filleted the neck open, that would have been a much better outcome, potentially for the patient and for CP partner number one, than just standing back and trying the same thing over and over again and waiting for somebody to come and help. So that's the crux of it. And a big emphasis today is going to be on the surgical airway, talking about it and also doing it. And when you leave the course today, I'm confident you'll be comfortable with the procedure and it won't be such a big decision barrier to jump to that in order to secure the airway.